Hi everyone, you're watching The Culture Cave. I'm here with the lovely Richard Clough, and in this series we're going to be taking you on a very special narrative journey of Richard's amazing life, scuba diving, and it all goes back to a very special ship from medieval times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what happened, Richard? And this dates back to the Mary Rose, doesn't it?
Yeah. So basically, when I was a little bit younger, I think I was 17 or 18, and I got my open water license. I actually joined a club for diving in the UK, and was lucky enough to be invited out one day to do like an exploration dive.
Mm-hmm.
And although slightly beyond my limits at the time, I really enjoyed the excitement of the whole occasion.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't told too many of the details about what it is we were actually doing, but actually after setting out from a port in Poole Harbour,
Mm-hmm.
We took a boat out towards the south side of the Isle of Wight,
Mm-hmm.
in which we, once we all descended into the water attached with buddy lines, which is like a rope from one diver to the other, we went down, and long story short, we actually came upon the remains of one of the warships that was supporting the Mary Rose when it was actually attacked and ultimately sunk.
Yeah.
And we came across the remains of this ship, which was
incredible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so the Mary Rose, of course, the prominent battleship of Henry VIII, and the last day that she sailed was the 19th of July, and I know this because it's my dad's birthday, 1545. Of course, he wasn't born in 1545, but yeah, the birthday resonated, and we got chatting about scuba diving. I'm going to be scuba diving later in the year with Richard, which I'm super excited about. But Richard, tell us where your journey really began. Where did you fall in love with the passion of scuba diving specifically?
I think it kind of fell on me.
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that when I remember when I was younger, and I wasn't so interested in playing games and stuff like that, but I remember my mother bought me a fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I could sit in front of this fish tank for hours just staring at the fish or rearranging it to make it all look very pretty and beautiful inside. And I think that gave me a love of the fish.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was lucky enough to do my open water. And when I started doing my open water, and I realized that this is really something that's truly spectacular, truly spectacular. I remember on my fourth dive, which is your qualification dive, actually descending down, and my instructor, I remember vividly, she was pointing at this thing in the sand, and when she was pointing at it, I was looking, and I didn't have the eyes yet that could see these kind of things for where they were camouflaged. She was pointing, I was looking, and she went down to the sand, and so very, very gently just fanned the sand away, and this maybe 4 or 5 foot angel shark just rose up out of the sand and just started swimming with us for the duration of the dive.
Wow.
And I think that moment hooked me. Absolutely hooked me. Then I started reading the books, I started like watching the videos online and stuff like that, and then it just gets in the blood.
Yeah. I think everyone remembers the moment in the water when you've kind of really noticed something that's kind of like a turning point. For me in snorkeling, although it be in shallower waters, the sea turtle experience, when I forgot my breathing, I was like kind of struggling with the regulation of breathing when I first started snorkeling. I saw this sea turtle, and similar thing, it started like swimming next to me, and I just forgot everything else. It's escapism, isn't it?
It really is. Like being in the water, for some people, like for me, even when I was in the water for the first time, it didn't feel right, it didn't feel natural. I wasn't great in the water. But like you say, you can have those moments where all the fear just disappears because you're in that moment. Yourself with the turtle. I still get that now. But myself with the angel shark, you know, I was studying, I was learning, I was still nervous, I was watching the instructor intently, and then you have that moment where everything disappears, and like you say, you're in that moment. And those are the ones that normally are what pull us in. You know, people talk about it with skydiving, that moment of, you know, that silence, that I'm falling, that I'm away from the aircraft, I'm moving towards the ground, that moment when you just absorb that moment that you're in, that pulls you into the sport that you're doing, and ultimately just keeps you there forever.
Yeah. So is this dating back about 15 years?
So, yeah, what am I now? 39 now, so about 15 years ago, yeah.
That's when you first started diving.
So I started when I was 17.
Okay.
But that was when I first started diving, but I didn't dive for a long period of time, as I had my career back in the UK. But then eventually I just wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And I remember my father saying to me one day, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. And I realized I liked what I did. I didn't love it. I wanted to actually experience my life, and actually every single day of my life to be like a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah. And that's exactly kind of how you live your life now.
Exactly.
When did you decide to become an instructor and help people on their diving journeys?
So I moved to Thailand. How old was I when I moved to Thailand? I think 26 when I moved to Thailand. 25, 26, something. And I moved to Thailand to do a dive master course, which is before the instructor course. And it's an internship. So I lived at the resort, I worked for the dive company and everything. And at the time I didn't have a job in the UK. So I was one of those traveling bums, basically. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful life.
Isn't it just?
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
And I remember it was about maybe 2 weeks before I was due to be finishing my dive master and then moving on, that the current dive master for the company, a lad called Kenji, he said that he was going to move up and become an instructor, and that the company needed another dive master. Did I want the job?
Wow, it's the right time, right place.
It really was. And all of a sudden I'm being offered a job that I could never have imagined working in. You know, I was being offered something that I really wanted in my life. I didn't realize how much I wanted until he just said it to me. And without asking, without speaking to my parents back home, without speaking to anyone, I just said, yes, absolutely yes. I just made that immediate decision.
Just kind of like automatic moment of the universe. Synchronicity or something almost.
I didn't even want to give it a minute's thought.
I
just said yes.
And you've never looked back since?
No, not at all. Literally since that moment is what was the complete U-turn in my life, basically.
So then the Mary Rose, you found a lot of treasures, didn't you, from the supporting ship? Tell us more about that.
So when we were down there, again, being quite young and new diver, being more focused on what I was doing as a diver, I can't probably tell you as much as what some of the experts that I was diving with was. But I do vividly remember seeing plenty of like cannonballs and being surprised by the different sizes of cannonballs.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Wow.
So you'd find small ones, you'd find larger ones, and so on and so forth, and they were scattered all over the places with these frameworks of wood that were still lying there.
Just the variety of weapons.
It was incredible. The person to my right, he actually raised out of the sand and the area what looked like an old sword, basically. It was heavily grown over and heavily damaged and everything, but you can very clearly see what it was. But there was an array of things. One of the other teams that went shortly afterwards, they were finding all these incredible things like buttons, like jacket buttons and stuff. Jacket buttons that were actually related to officers at the time as well, so they were gold. So there was some incredible things down there.
So these are people that are brushing shoulders with Henry VIII himself.
Unbelievable, isn't it?